Hey, so this week on my Instagram, the content has been inspired by this brilliant book, Story Driven by Bernadette Jiwa. The subtitle of the book is You Don't Need to Compete When You Know Who You Are. And it's all about understanding ourselves in relation to what we do. It's about figuring out our purpose, our vision, and translating that into a strategy that gets us to our destination. And as well as a bunch of examples, there's a chapter full of questions and prompts to help you to complete her story-driven framework. And I did this about 18 months ago, and I still have the 17-page Google Doc with all of my answers. So for me, it made a big impact, and I think it's well worth taking a look at. But what we're going to do today is to walk through each stage of Bernadette's framework, and my hope is that it really gets you thinking about these fundamentals, because they can help to give your brand, whether it's a personal brand or a large one, a unique identity so that you stand out and have clarity about what you're doing, where you're going, and crucially, why. And like Bernadette says, you don't need to compete when you know who you are. And that's because there's only one you. You're distinctive, you stand for something that will mean something specific to your audience. But in order to articulate that, you have to first define it. And that's what this brilliant framework helps you to do. So we've got a bit of a Maslow's hierarchy of needs structure going on here with the building blocks in order, so you build on top of them, so you can't skip ahead. And the most fundamental step is the backstory. She calls it, or dubs it, our journey to now. And the logic behind this stage is that if you don't know where you came from, how you got to here, you'll struggle to define here. And if you can't define where you are now, you can't with any accuracy define where you want to go. Bernadette Jiwa says that understanding the backstory of your company is like looking in the mirror. And that's not to say you're doing it to evaluate your appearance or flaws, but to recognize who you are. Because if we don't know who we are, how can we hope to express ourselves with any sense of identity? For example, Nike has kept the battered old waffle iron that Bill Bowerman used to prototype a new grip for their running shoes back in 1971 in their headquarters. It's front and centre. And it's a reminder to them of where they came from and what they're all about. They innovate to inspire athletes. So some of the questions that Bernadette asks to prompt you to define your backstory are: what's the hardest thing you've ever done? Where did the idea for your business come from? And why did you feel compelled to start the business? There are a lot more questions in the book, but these should set you off in the right direction. Okay, so once you have your backstory, next are your values, your guiding beliefs. So Bernadette Jiwa refers to our values as part of our personal and organisational GPS. They constantly indicate our next move. When we know what our values are, it makes decision making so much easier. They help to guide us and instruct us towards the best course of action, even in stressful situations. In this sense, when you have well-defined values and you use them to guide decisions, you end up living your values, which leads to authenticity, clarity, and alignment. They bring together people and help shine a light on the way forwards. So in the book, there's a large list of values that you're asked to circle, the ones that stand out to you. And some examples of those are achievement, bravery, curiosity, discovery, empathy, learning, success, wisdom. There are lots more. So once you've written down your values, you're asked to consider why you chose them and explain why these values are important to you. Again, there are more questions in the book, but these will get you thinking about your values and why the specific ones that you've chosen mean more to you than others. Okay, next, purpose, your reason to exist. The value of purpose is summed up really well in a quote by Elon Musk, and he says, "People work better when they know what the goal is and why." I really like that quote because it helps people to understand the practicality of doing all of this work. I think that the practicality and the proper value of it can get lost sometimes, and unfortunately, I think it puts people off when they're not sure how doing all of this can actually help their business in reality. But It can, it can. And there's plenty of research to show that we need to feel like we're making a contribution to something larger than ourselves. The need to contribute is one of the 6 basic human needs, and having a clear purpose that's articulated really well helps us to align and focus ourselves and our team if we have one. And the author goes even further, saying that without a sense of purpose, our well-being and health can suffer. So taking some time to figure this out is well worth it. And of course, there are some questions to set you on your way to finding your purpose. So think about, what change are you trying to make? And think, why is this goal important to you? And then also, why is your work important to your audience? Like I said, they should get you started in the right direction. Okay, next, vision, or your aspiration for the future. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said the following. He said that to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so you better understand where you are now, and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. As we've previously mentioned, without a purpose, we don't know why we're on a journey. But without a vision, we don't actually know where we're going. And a good way to think of your vision is that it's your aspiration for the future, the contribution that you want you or your work to make. And having clarity over your vision will not only help to motivate you, but act as a northern star. It will help to guide your choices. Again, let's have a look at a couple of questions that are going to help you to define your vision. So, what 3 things do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? And what will your legacy be? Okay, finally, we come to strategy. And you should know that it's a topic I talk a lot about. If our vision is our distant future goal, then our strategy is our route to getting there, with our tactics is the individual steps that move us closer to it. Without a strategy, the danger is going straight to tactics, which is never a good idea because they end up being either random or reactionary. And it means that we send mixed messages to our audience, so we mean nothing specific to them. And that means that we're very likely to be misunderstood. So in practical terms, our audience won't actually understand our value proposition, so we're likely to miss opportunities. We want our audience to fully understand our value proposition, i.e. how we can help them. And this can only come from having a strategy, from which you can define a deliberate plan of action that's going to get you to your goal. Now, Bernadette breaks her questions down into 4 parts in this section. Your what, so your product or your service. Your who, you need to define that as in your audience. Your how, which includes tactics and timelines. And then alignment, which is really crucial. And it's how you're going to make sure that all of the work that you've done in the framework actually filter through to the work that your market and the outside work experiences and interacts with. So things such as your design, web copy, campaign, that all has to be aligned. Right, so there you have it. That's a story-driven framework. And if it looks like hard work that's going to take deep thought and some time, that's because it is. It requires self-reflection, honesty, and examination. But the rewards for doing this can be phenomenal. So I really recommend that you commit to doing this, to going through this. And with any aspect of work that's challenging or requires self-reflection or depth, in my experience, most people will not do it. So that means if you do, you'll be in the minority and have an advantage that most people will not have. So let me know how you get on, and as ever, reach out to me on here or on Instagram if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.